How's everybody doing?
Hello.
Hey, good. How are you doing, Keisha?
I'm doing good. Glad to see beautiful faces. Everybody looks safe and healthy.
Yes.
Yep.
So are y'all ready for part 2?
Yeah.
Something old and something new. Okay. Well, before we get started, just to let, in case anybody is tuning in for the first time, I am Takesha Edwards. I'm the owner of Pt.2 Events, which is a full service event planning company. And due to all of the circumstances that are going on right now with our world, I should say, I was going to say country, but it's affecting the whole world. We are doing virtual events. And as an avid reader, we are doing virtual book reviews. And tonight we are doing the part 2 version of our virtual book review of Something Old and Something New by the author, Marlee Ray. And so we're gonna go ahead and get started because we got a lot to talk about tonight. So I wanna introduce our panelists. We have 2 more that are coming in later, but our panelists, we have Miss Pat, the famous Miss Pat. How you doing, Miss Pat?
I'm so happy, I'm blessed.
Oh, I know that you know what? I am too.
Good.
Miss Pat is joining us from Florida. And then we have our sweet St. Louis author over here, Marlee Ray. How you doing, Marlee Ray?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good. And then we have our DMVers. We have Alex, one of our DMVers. I like to call him my residential poet and psychologist. We have the beautiful Miss Wanda over here.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Wanda.
Hi.
We have the famous I Hate Dre Mel right here.
Up high.
Melanie has a fan club for that comment. And then we have our residential author, Miss Steph Williams, author of Joy Happen. How you doing?
I'm great. How's everyone?
Good.
Great.
So we're glad to have everybody on, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. I don't see us on you guys will have to let us know when the comments come through for some reason. Okay, I see it now. There we go. And so we're gonna go ahead and get started to review chapters 11 through 17. And okay, so I see the comments here. Now I'm gonna say hey to our Facebook group. We have Barbara here, Shamel is here, Stephanie Gordon Thurman is back, Gloria Johnson is back, Shamel is back, Kendra is back. We have Deborah Davis here. How you guys? Thank you so much for joining in, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. So what I like to do is just do a brief recap of the chapters we're gonna be discussing tonight. I'm gonna skip, I'm trying to get them all in, and I'm gonna be skipping a lot of fun and feeling parts. So I do apologize in advance. But those of you who have read the book, you guys know what's in the chapters. And those of you who haven't, that will entice you to get the books. So let's get started. So we left off in chapter 10. And with chapter 10 in our part 1 review, we left off where it ends with Macon receiving a text from this Lisa person stating that she was at the airport and needed a ride. So we find out later on in this review tonight who this mystery Lisa lady is. Hey Jay, how you doing? Glad you could join us.
I'm having a bad, hey look, it's been a bad week. I literally, my ice line on my refrigerator broke. I got water all in my basement. I just finished.
Oh no. Well, it's time for you to
That's
have
how
some fun
special
tonight.
Jay is. He can roll with his punks and still
He
join
can roll
us
with the
for our-
punches.
He
See
can
that?
roll. He can
Yeah.
roll.
I was in a car. Hey, look, I was in a car accident Wednesday. Somebody hit my truck. So
Oh my
no.
God.
Wow.
All right,
But
Jay.
it's okay.
And that's
I'm
why
okay.
we love Jay.
My truck is going to be in the shop for about 3 weeks.
Uh-oh.
But
Oh wow.
Oh no.
it's
We
been
glad.
a bad week. But
Well, at least
I'm all
you're
right.
okay. That's
I'm
right.
still upright. You know, I'm still
That's
upright
right.
and I'm breathing.
That's right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
How's
big
everybody?
hug for you, Jay.
Good, good.
Big hug for you, Jay.
That's right.
Big-
Right. But there we go.
We're gonna pray for you, brother.
Virtual hug.
Thank you. That's right.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I tell you. All right. So we're gonna go on through the chapter review. So in chapter 11, this chapter opens up with Dawn hanging out with her girlfriends Tori and Janae, and they're at this West End vodka bar, and they're chatting it up about how happy they are with with Dawn and Macon's relationship. And Dawn happens to look out the window of the bar and notices Macon walking down the street with another woman eating ice cream. And like any woman, Dawn becomes concerned with what she sees and decides to, she's with a girlfriend. So she decides to break the news to them of what she sees. And Tori, who is, she's the rational friend, I think, she advises Dawn, everybody's shocked because they look outside and is like, oh my God, that is Macon. And, Tori's like, hey girl, it could be his sister, just, calm down. Don't jump to conclusion. Talk to him about this, quote unquote mystery woman before we jump the gun, excuse me. And Janae is kind of the, pop it off hothead friend. She is like, in so many words, she wanted to know what they was going to do to Macon. Like, what we going to do with him now that we see this? So poor Dawn, she's on her way home. And then, in her process of going home, Dre is calling her back to back. And of course, he's ticked off because Janae filled him in on the latest news. And during her conversation with Dre, Dawn receives text messages from Macon. Dawn really wasn't in a position to talk to anyone or even see Macon. So she tells him, I'm not feeling good. And so again, she wasn't in the mood. Dre wanted to stop by and kind of check on her to see, she was okay. He is his friend and, she's going through this relationship on top of everything else that she's going through. And, she really didn't want to be a bother. So she agreed if he could just come by later on that day. In the meantime, Macon then texts her that he will be stopping by within a minute. When Macon arrives, he noticed something is wrong with Dawn, but he also notices that she doesn't look sick. So Dawn, after a little hesitation, she just asked Macon if he was seeing other people. And Macon is confused and kind of thrown back. And Dawn confesses that she saw him walking down the street with another woman earlier today. And it's funny, when I was reading this part, it kind of reminded me, y'all remember Orange Juice Jones?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I don't know why I thought about this. So anyway, sorry about that. So, Macon is kind of offended, and he basically gets upset with Dawn, and she's questioning, his integrity with their relationship. And he felt, that Dawn should have picked up the phone and called him, if she had a problem with, if she was upset about something that she saw. He was just mad that she would even accuse or jump to the worst conclusion about this situation with seeing him and Lisa. And then Macon then asked Dawn to come outside. They go back and forth. I'm jumping ahead. They go back and forth about, them Dawn seeing Lisa and how she handled it. And then, with him telling her that he finally says, Dawn, won't you come outside? I want you to meet my cousin. And the cousin turned out to be Lisa. And she happened to be in town for his stepfather's Brock retirement party. And, Dawn was embarrassed, to say the least. And,
to say the least.
to say the least. And it was kind of a gut puncher on page 163. Macon tells Dawn, I guess you were right. We did move too fast. You're not ready.
Whoa.
Yeah. And when Dawn saw Lisa, sure enough, again, she was embarrassed. And, of course, Lisa is all nice and she was happy to see her, wanted them to stop by and meet her and all this, that, just adding on to the pressure that she just totally embarrassed herself. It was another woman.
Yeah.
And so, and Dre, not Dre, look at me, bring him up already. Megan is heated. You know, he is upset. She has really insulted him. And, you know, he basically tells Lisa, you know, she's sick. She don't feel good. But, you know, we getting ready to leave. And Lisa's like, so I'm going to see you Saturday at Brock's party. It was just a big mess. So those of you that chapter 11 had a lot of information in it. So I'm going to just continue. So after Macon and Lisa leaves, Dre stops by and he realized Dawn is a mess, and she tells Dre about all that happened. Of course, he's trying to cheer her up, but he did, you know, admit to her like, yeah, you might have did jump to conclusions a little bit, but you know, whatever. So anyway, a few days after that, Dre called Dawn to invite her to accompany him with the co-worker's retirement party. You know, he knew she was kind of down and out. He wanted her to come out and hang out and lift her spirits. Well, when they arrived, they both soon figured out that it was Brock's party, retirement party, which is Macon's stepfather. And Dawn is like, can it get any more complicated? Showing up at this party with her best friend, trying to get her hopes up, and it turns out to be the party of Macon's stepfather. So now she's forced, you know, she's kind of uncomfortably forced to face Macon and some of his family and friends. So she's like, thanks. So anyway, after some awkward exchanges and greetings and this and that, you know, even with his daughter, the mother and all this, you know, her and Macon kind of make up in the cutest way. I'm gonna speed things up a little bit. Dawn happened to ask the DJ to play a song, and it happens to be Macon's ringtone for her, Booed Up by Anthony Davis, excuse me. And they kind of danced and this and that. So, and their reconnection was really nice. I liked it a lot. Way more details when you guys read. Okay, in chapter 12, in this chapter, we examine Dre's perspective. And he finally comes to the, you know, the terms that he is actually in love and wants Dawn. And we find out that even his parents and some of the friends were hip to the fact, you know, surprising to him, that like, yeah, we knew you liked her. Yeah. We've been knowing for years. Like, yes, no. In chapter 13 is, you know, Macon's perspective. We have another Macon, and this chapter kind of opens up with Macon and Dre having another debacle. Dawn and Dre decide to resume. They have like weekly Sunday dinners, and they, you know, decided to resume that. And in the beginning of this chapter, as Dre was leaving Dawn's place, Macon was coming in, and on page 190, Dre actually tells Macon, "Stop upsetting my girl, and we'll be cool." Ooh. And Macon kind of replies, "She may be your girl, but she's my woman." Let's just say, so that pretty much tells you the tone between the two of them, pretty much all the way almost until the end of the chapter, up until chapter 17, late 16, chapter 17. And in chapter 14, Dre finally confesses to Dawn that he's in love with her, and Dawn is like blown all the way back. She starts to then, you know, she's confused. She really doesn't know how to respond. She's almost a little bit kind of frustrated and annoyed a little bit that he confessed this to her. But I mean, they've been friends for 34 years. She had to kind of give it some thought. And so, and then it shows how Dawn is reflecting back over her and Dre's relationship, how they met at Landscape Elementary School. It was really cute. Dre ends up rescuing Dawn from a bully named Cedric, and they pretty much kind of connect, and it was history from there. Then it goes into her reflecting over the junior year in college when Dawn, you know, she drives 2 hours during finals to visit Dre. He was sick, and she was a little concerned, thinking it was a little bit more than him just having like a common cold. Well, it turns out it was, he ended up having pneumonia. And Dawn had to pretty much coach him, you know, demand for him to go to ER. And once he got there, they found out, you know, he had pneumonia. So had she not pressured him to come, you know, he could have died in his dorm room. And then she goes on to reflect on her wedding day. So after all this reflecting back in time over her and Dre's relationship, she is just confused and torn about their relationship and her new relationship and her feelings about Macon and Dre. It's almost like she feels like, and this is a question I have for you guys later, you can think about it now. It almost kind of like seems like she feels like she owes him some sort of relationship because of the history that they have, but she doesn't want to jeopardize their friendship. That was the feeling I was getting when I was trying to relate to Dawn during this time. So also on the tail end of this chapter, Dawn gets a phone call from Dre's mother, talking about how Dre had been in a car accident. And of course, Dawn is like, stop, drop, trying to figure out what's going on. And her mother says Dre's mother said she didn't know too much at the time, that she was on her way to the hospital. And Dawn, tells Macon, because he happened to be with her at that time, and they head over to the hospital to see Dre. Notice I said Macon is with her. So in chapter 15, turns out Dre only had a fracture and a broken leg. And, he was kind of excited. This chapter talks about how, talks through his perception. He talks about how he was excited to see Dawn, but not so excited to see. He calls, Dre calls Macon Big Baby. I think that is so hilarious.
Okay.
Excited or happy to see Big Baby. And in chapter 16, Macon finds out, Dawn is kind of going through a lot. He's trying to close in some final ends concerning her mom and mom's property. Their birthdays are coming up. She is just having a hard time balancing her emotions and feelings with, everything that's going on also with her mom. And of course, Macon is doing everything he can to console her. And, he comes to the realization that he knows that, she needs her friends. And so he does the most selfless act ever. Oh my God, this sealed the deal with me falling in love with Macon. I see you, Miss Pat. He reaches out to Dre.
Didn't he?
Not a phone call, not a text message. He goes to see him, okay? Because, again, Dawn is really going through the emotion of her mom's, and it turns out her and her mother's birthday are around the same time. And he tells her, Macon tells Dre when he sees him, he knows that they have been having some arguments at that time, but he's like, look, man, she's not doing well. She's trying to cover it up, and you are a part of her past. You knew her mom. Of course I'm her present, but I can't console her like her friends can. You guys have history, her. And, he was man enough to bring that up to Dre. I was like, my heart was beating like this. Reading that chapter, because you never hear anything about that. But anyway, we're gonna discuss it. Let me sum this up. And he goes on to tell Dre, updates about Dawn. And Dre is a little salty that he's even there. And he's still doing that mano y mano thing. And he ended the conversation with Macon by saying on page 246, I got Dawn, don't you worry. And it's like, dude, but anyway, Macon isn't even mad.
And you see why I hate Dre, right?
I see why you hate
You see why I hate him.
Let me tell you, you can't be a hater. Macon said he wasn't even mad. He was like, I even empathize with the dude because he let a good one go. I can't even be mad at him. So that leads into chapter 17. I'm gonna talk a little bit about chapter 17. So it opens up with Dawn talking to Tori regarding her new boo Marcus and Donald, who you guys remember, Donald is Macon's stepbrother. And they were trying to hook Tori and Donald up before. I don't know if you guys remember in part 1. But unfortunately, Tori had friend zoned Donald. But she was still hanging out with him. They were still hanging out, going on dates. But unfortunately, Donald. And Dre tells, in this particular chapter, Dre tells Don about his conversation with Macon. And I'll give a little bit more in chapter 17. He pretty much tells her, you know, he's a different type of fellow because there's no way in the world I could have put my pride aside and did what he did. And he tells Don that he loves her. She would always be his girl, but he recognizes that, you know, it is what it is. And he loves her, but he understands. And so I'm going to leave it there.
Because
so
he
you guys
was
will have
not
to read.
He was not her boo.
You gotta wait and read the sequel. Whoa.
No, hold on, Miss Badass, because I can see you over there. I've been noticing your facial expressions the whole time. Okay, so that is my review, because I really sped through a lot of this. It's so much other stuff I wanted to talk about, but I know we can't for the sake of time. That is my review of chapter 11 through 17. So Facebook, thank you guys for joining. I know, you know, some of y'all read them and get to your comments regarding the book, but at this time, you know, we like to take a sip before we get our discussion on. So Facebook, you guys let me know what you guys are sipping on. I'm getting ready to ask the panel here what they have tonight. So I'm gonna start with Alex since he's taking it to the head right now. Alex, what you drinking?
Just some rosé.
Rosé, okay. Rosé.
Ran out of the. We ran out of the gin, so I get some full wine.
All right, Miss Pat, what you got in your hand over there?
I'm joining Alex with the rosé. And then I want to mention, I don't know, can you see the bottle?
I can see the bottle. I can't see nothing in it. Okay, there we go.
No, here's the deal. What I'm noticing with a lot of these rosés is that they come with a decanter top, a glass decanter top. So what I call it is a very nice gift, because you get two gifts in one. You get the rosé. I'm selling y'all something. You get the rosé.
I know, right?
You get the decanter top. And then watch this one. Watch this one.
Oh, I've seen that in the store.
That is beautiful.
What's the
It's
name?
not terribly expensive,
Gonna have to try that one.
but it's two gifts in one.
It is.
Nice.
What's the name of that one, Miss Pat?
You know what? They have some kind of French names.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not gonna try either. Anybody else want to give it a shot? I can't tell you. I've seen it before, but I.
Oh, it's rosé cool. Yeah.
It's
No,
no
it's
wild.
Seen it.
JNSQ, whatever that is. JNSQ.
Okay. It's cute. That's what we'll
Yeah.
call it tonight. That's our
And
version.
this one is Cote des Roses.
Okay, we'll see.
Rosé.
Text anybody who wants to know. Makes a nice gift. Very
It is
classic
a nice
gift.
gift. It is. Okay, Wanda, what you drinking on?
Just some pink Moscato.
Moscato.
We got a
Mel.
color theme this year.
I know.
I am actually drinking a hard cider.
Nice.
Ah.
This is the Angry Orchard.
Yes.
That's a good one.
I'm actually drinking a cider tonight.
Mhm.
Still in the
Right.
red. Still in the red and
Alright.
pink.
Steph.
I'm drinking a rosé.
Oh, it's a
Mm.
Rosé night.
Oh,
Wow.
yes, it is.
3 rosés so far.
All right. Okay, Miss Marlee Ray, what you got over there in St. Louis? What they drinking on in St. Louis?
I have to break the trend. I'm drinking a Stella Rosa tonight.
Oh, I like that. Yes.
Stella Rosa.
Yeah.
Yes, Steph turned me on to Stella Rose. All right, Jay, what you got for me tonight? You better not pull up no essential water bottle. I know that.
Oh, you know,
Hey, look.
you know it's water. You know it's water.
Hey, look. Like I said, I literally just finished
See
fixing
that?
the leak in the basement. I ain't have a chance to grab anything. So I'm sitting here without a drink. I'm sitting here with nothing.
Cheers.
We'll let you pass tonight.
We're going to bring you something.
Here's to you,
Yeah.
Jay.
There you go.
Take a drink. Take a drink. Take a drink.
Here's to Jay.
That's right. That's right.
I'm drinking a white wine and I put the bottle up. It was a gift, so I can't even tell y'all the name of it. I don't know why I put the bottle beside me, and maybe I'll post it later. But okay, so let's see what our friends over here in Facebook is drinking. So Deborah King says she's drinking cucumber water. Kendra says she's drinking La Creme. Gloria Johnson Moscato. And then we have here Stephanie Gorman Thurman. She's drinking watermelon Moscato. Ooh, got a Moscato theme. And Gloria Johnson also said yes, Stella Rose. Stella Rose is popular.
It is.
It is.
Barbara is drinking Stella Rose Black. All
Wow.
right. So yes, okay. Everybody's getting their nice relaxing juices on. So let's go ahead and get started with our discussion. So my first question tonight is this, and I just want y'all, your viewpoint. I was stuck on the fact of how Dawn approached Macon, regarding her seeing him out with Lisa at the time. She didn't know who Lisa was. I really didn't see anything wrong with the way she asked him. I mean, it's still new. She's still getting to know Macon. Was she really out of line? I mean, was her approach really inappropriate? I mean, what you guys think? Because if I saw a guy out, well, look, I don't wait and simmer. That's some of my problem. If I saw a guy out with my girlfriend, I would have probably said, excuse me, guys, I got to go to the bathroom, and would have walked outside and said, hey, who is this? Hi, you got new friends? You got new friends around here? Hi, I'm Keisha. What's your name? That's my style. But yeah, go ahead, Alex.
I mean, I have to say, like, if I were to see someone I was dating, or was very, very serious with, regardless of how long it's been, and we've already either said or like kind of insinuated that we are exclusive, and I saw them with someone that I was like, wasn't really sure who they were, I would have been like, huh. I don't know if I would have, walked outside at that moment. I mean, I've never been in this position, but I don't know if I would have walked out that moment and like confronted, the person. But I think, I don't think she was out of line at all, by asking him, demanding from him who the woman was, because it's a woman, it's someone she's never seen before. She had witnesses who also saw, the woman. They were eating ice cream that she introduced him to.
Okay.
The lavender ice cream, which is amazing, by the way. I don't think she was out of line at all. I think she was all within her right. I don't think Macon deserved to be as offended necessarily as he was, because he should have been upfront, be like, even before she brought it up, say, hey, my cousin Lisa's in the car. She'd like to meet you. Start out with that, rather than walking in being like, what's wrong?
Uh-oh. What you think, Mel?
Go ahead, Wanda. Wanda,
Oh,
you had
Wanda,
something to say, right?
I'm sorry. Y'all screens are a little different in my iPad. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I guess I think because of the way they had built their relationship, that if I was Macon, I probably would be offended, because he had been honest. He had been upfront about so many things. He had introduced her to his kids. They had, built a bond and a relationship, that to see him do something that she may have viewed out of character, still doesn't mean that she should have just assumed the worst. And again, I've said this to another friend, when you get a certain age, it's like some things you should be mature about, right? And so even the approach could have been more mature. Even with her friends sitting around the table, you see one first is ready to fight, and the other one is giving him the benefit of the doubt, right?
That's true.
And I think that from what they had been through, the fact that she had trusted him with her most inner hurt and pain that she was experiencing with her mother, it was almost like all of that went away, because she saw
It did, yeah.
And when he came in the house with a gift for her. So it wasn't like he was trying to hide that he'd been to the ice cream store. He just, because he came in, he was even thinking about her. But none of those things seemed to matter. All that mattered was there was another woman. And she felt already he was cheated and couldn't be trusted.
So
That's
I have a
Just
rebuttal.
because I read the book,
I
that's how I would feel.
okay. I'm gonna go ahead and back to Alex.
So I mean, I can
Go ahead,
I can
Mel.
agree with. I definitely agree with you, Wanda. Like they did build the relationship, and there was a lot of trust and honesty from both sides. But if the person, I mean, for example, if we know that later on in the book that her mother's birthday is coming up, she's finalizing, the closure of the sale of her mom's house. She has a lot going on her mind. I would say that given the fact that she already had a lot of emotional baggage to begin with, seeing this probably was just the icing on the cake for her, emotion, being so like overwhelmed by emotion. So
I agree.
I think in terms of the situation, she wasn't necessarily, unfounded for why she responded the way she did. If she didn't have as much on her plate to begin with, I don't feel like she would have responded the way she did.
No,
I think she would have been along with I think it was Janae was the one, or Tori, I don't remember who it was the one who was just like given the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have as much emotional baggage going on at the same time. So they were able to kind of, except for the one who was a little crazy, make a clear judgment of the situation. She had so much on her mind as it was that seeing her man with another woman eating the ice cream that she introduced him into,
It was just too much.
out of context, was just way too much for her to handle.
I agree with you.
I mean,
What were you gonna
yes,
say,
there's, in psychology, in relationship psychology, one of the things that a cheater does is they bring a gift as a peace offering to their loved one.
But not the same ice cream.
No, I know.
Okay.
I mean, in general, but I will say, like, in most cases, it's like the wife or the main girlfriend gets the nicer jewelry or whatever it may be. But there's that element. I think that if she weren't, like, go back to my main point, if she didn't have as much emotional baggage as she did at that time, she probably would not have responded that way.
She probably wouldn't, and I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Alex. Mel?
I agree. I agree that her baggage could have contributed to her overreacting. However, everything that they have developed in that relationship showed her who the guy he was. And,
no, I agree with you. I totally agree with you on that.
And I look, we all have our handicaps. Everyone has them. And yes, and everyone has baggage. I just don't think her approach was appropriate. I think he handled it. I think he reacted rationally. Like, because she got baggage, maybe you're not ready, boo. You ain't ready for a real guy.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree with Mel. I think that because the relationship goes both ways, right? So she got herself into this, and he has been very patient through that, and he's been very honest and upfront. So even if she does have baggage and her emotions are out of place, at some point she has to put herself aside and think about what she is committing to, right? And
That's
so
true.
her commitment,
Very self-centered.
yeah, exactly.
And he was dealing with that old courtroom gesture, Dre. I'm like, anybody who deals with Dre, she should be like, she deal with that courtroom gesture. Like, really? Really?
You a mess, Mel. What were you gonna say, Miss Pat?
Okay, so I know that we're living in the world of Marlee Ray and her characters, and she has to entertain us. So that's what we're dealing with. But in the real world, as tight as Dawn and Macon were, and as clear as Macon was at always being on top of his game, even though he was younger than her, he would have said, my cousin's in town.
I do have
Bingo.
to. I agree with that.
You may see her sometime this weekend.
Yeah.
But he didn't have a chance to.
I mean, he
Right.
got it. He
would have
got a
said it in
text message
advance.
from her.
He
Yeah,
would have said it in advance.
exactly.
But
He got a
the
text
but
message.
remember, the phone call was a surprise to him. The
Right.
text from her was a surprise that she was in
Okay.
town and that she needed a ride. That was a surprise.
Okay. It was
And
all
then-
the same day.
But then our Arthur took us to the to the
Right.
friends, and so it was just like it all happened at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't have time to explain, but he came to explain once it was over. She just had her defenses up.
Right.
I just
Immature.
I
That
just
was
have
an
a
immature our period.
Let me check with our Facebook group here for a second. So we have Ashley Fisher. She says communication on both ends would have avoided the whole scene. Okay, so she kind of agrees with you, Miss Pat. Zahara, I think Don's insecurities got the best of her.
Thank you, Zahara.
Yes.
Gloria
Yeah.
Johnson says, I think she overreacted, excuse me, but that comes with maturity and dating. Okay. And then Shamel says she agrees with Zahara. Deborah Davis, most of us feel insecure in relationships no matter how long we've been involved. Baggage.
Yep.
Latanya Jones King said, I agree with Alex. Ashley Fisher said, okay, psychology. I didn't know that. I guess she was talking about the gift, Alex.
Yeah. So yeah, it's funny.
That insecurity in relationships effective communication is necessary in relationships. So okay, Miss Pat, she agrees with you. No, he could have given her the same benefit of the doubt and expected her to give him. Okay, that was from Ashley Fisher. And Ashley Fisher also said, remember, they're still getting to know each other. And so they're kind of going back and forth. I'm kind of torn between both sides because I did think like that. They do talk all the time. There was no time for him to say, oh, let me hit you back. I'm getting ready to go pick up my cousin from the airport.
Right.
But I'm gonna be honest.
I have to announce that. I mean, I think you're being jerk. You have to announce like every step I'm making throughout the day.
Right.
You open mail on that one. And remember when they had a conversation, he had just talked to her and they got off the phone and then the cousin texted him. So this was all on the same day. So if you're dating someone, you're not going to announce a cousin. That's not a big deal because you're not cheating with a cousin. So you think that you would have to explain a cousin. And this is all in the same day.
Okay. That's true.
If it had been like 2 weeks or a couple days, he probably would have mentioned, hey, my cousin is in town. But he didn't have, I don't think that he had enough time. But
That's not so. It takes 1 second to text. I'm with you.
Yeah.
It takes 1
Oh my God. I'm not dating Alice or Stephanie.
Now you okay, if she's an ex-girlfriend, you might want to talk about that.
Yeah,
but
that, you got
I'm about to text you that my cousin is in town.
I ain't doing that.
I'm not telling you that. It's not a big deal. I don't think you would, and I wouldn't assume like, oh my goodness, he might see me at the airport with my cousin and think, yeah, you're not, something's wrong. And that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I have a quick thing. So if you're gonna, my thing is, if you're gonna bring somebody over to meet somebody, give them a warning, because I mean, in the end of the day, Dawn had no idea that the cousin that she saw was the person she saw. So I think in terms of communication, I feel like if you're gonna bring somebody to my house, tell me they're coming, because I don't want to be surprised by some random person.
But remember when he
that's
came
common
over,
decency.
He only came over because she said she was sick. He wasn't going to. That wasn't his initial plan. Remember, he told her to come to his parents' house after she finished with her friends. That's where she was supposed to meet the cousin at when she finished up with dinner. But she said, hey, I'm sick. I'm at home. So he's like, okay, something is wrong. Let me stop by. And remember, the cousin didn't come in the house. The cousin sat in the car.
Yeah.
She did
Yeah.
sit in the
He went in
Yeah.
first.
That looks like guilt right there. The woman car.
Stephanie is nuts. I mean, she's crazy. She looks like no guilt.
You gotta
Why couldn't the cousin come in? Why couldn't the cousin
Oh my
come in?
God.
I'm sitting in the car.
She's
I'm
nuts.
I'm stepping back from that one.
Yes, Alex, step back from that. Jay,
But
I
let-
see your
Touching
eyes.
that.
Okay, but let me say this because I've heard it two ways. So another person that read the book, I heard this in a review as well, said that they was kind of upset with Macon in that point, in that Macon basically took it too far. That Macon should have said, now look, I'm going to have you, look, this is what we're going to do. This is my cousin. You're going to have to stop tripping. And he should have just nipped it in the bud and been done
Yep.
with it.
See,
They
that's
felt-
what I thought he should
Right.
have
Now
done.
they
I
thought
thought
that
he took
Macon
it way
was
too
also in the
far.
wrong, that he was too sensitive about the subject. So, but I heard both ways. And I think it just depends. In my opinion, I think it just depends on what you've been through in relationships and what you've
I
seen
agree with that
and what
one.
you've gone through.
Yeah.
And remember, one of the things that Dawn said was after it was over, she said, I did it again. I did it again. I assumed the worst in a man, which meant that something
just
like
a
that
history.
had happened in the past and it wasn't a cousin.
Yeah.
So,
And you know, and I just thought with Macon having a background in dealing with emotions, not necessarily
Mhm.
relationship, but you know, dealing with emotions, that he will be a little empathetic to her and her situation.
He's still
if she-
human. He's not a robot where you put in. He's
and,
still
and
human.
remember, that was one of
True.
the things that he said that that was his pet peeve and one of the things that
That's
happened in his marriage.
With
was
him
that
and his
he
wife.
didn't like to be
Right.
Integrity,
Okay.
right?
That was a
Right.
trigger for
That
him,
was
too.
his pet peeve. Yep.
Yes, that was his pet
Okay.
The
peeve.
lack of
Mhm.
trust.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That was part of his baggage as well.
Yeah.
So they both brought baggage or things from past relationships that caused them to break up from a misunderstanding.
But they had talked about it too, though. So
Yeah,
they-
yeah, he told her. Right.
He told her.
Yeah.
But I will say though,
That ice
at
cream-
that
I think
moment,
ice cream sent her over the edge. I think it was that ice
That-
cream.
Girl, when I
Probably.
saw that bag of ice cream, that was the end.
Yeah, the ice cream was rough. That was rough. Yeah.
yeah. So I will say though, I do want to say that they should have had a conversation then and there. Like I agree with you, Marlee, that he should have just nipped it in the bud and said, "This is the situation. You need to face that. This is the actual situation. This is the reality of the situation. Whatever you are thinking, it's not true. It was never true. It will never be true. Let's have a conversation about this." I think going back to the comment about communication, there should have
Yeah,
been
he
more
wasn't going to do
communication.
that, Alex. He
at
wasn't.
that
That's his pet peeve. He's not doing that.
But even
And
then,
I
I
already
think
had that
there has to
discussion.
be a conversation. No, I know. but
Okay, Miss Pat
it-
got her hand up. I'm gonna let her
Yeah.
go. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm
Miss Pat.
sorry.
If we get to real reality, what happened is what Marlee intended to happen. We know what we would want to happen in the real world.
Get out of my head.
Girl, I ain't letting it go. Because what happened, you needed to entertain us. And if we knew the answer for everything, then you know what I'm saying? Now it's not an entertainment vehicle. You wanted us to see a certain thing and we got it.
Yes.
But do you?
Thank you, sister.
So can I ask the question? Do we think that seeing that thing, had it happened the way ideally it sounds like the majority would have wanted it to happen, which was for him to stand up and say you're wrong and you know don't accuse me or whatever, or do we think the fact that he did what he did allowed their relationship to grow, allow her an opportunity?
He needed to put the stop
That's a
sign
nice
up.
angle.
He
Yeah.
needed to put the stop sign up because she had to step back and deal with that now.
Yeah.
So I will say that like you can
Go ahead,
put the
Allison.
stop up, but you can still be kind about it. Like he has a background in grief counseling. She is
Yeah.
grieving. Her mother just died less than a year ago. So I think yes, he should have said something then and there and nipped it in the bud, but he has the training from his background to do it in a proper way so that it's not
Okay.
like he's accusing her of anything. He's not taking the blame himself. He's just saying, this is the situation. This is how it happened. This is why it happened. This is my cousin, you know, whatever.
Okay,
I think
Alex.
at the end of the
No,
day,
that would not have. If I went out with a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and I know plenty of them, I don't want your psychology trip. I mean, I'm not. You know, I don't want that because we're in a relationship, and I don't want you to put me on the sofa. Yeah,
But I think it's
I'm not saying he would put her on the sofa. I'm just saying that he has enough training to understand that, okay,
Yeah.
I need to try and nip
So
this in
he's
the
a
bud in the
psychologist
best
every
way.
day, all day. I'm like, I gotta
he
be
has a
dealing with
heart,
her
and
because
he has a heart too,
No,
and
I ain't
feeling
doing that.
Right.
doing that.
Exactly.
somebody's got to look at that too. And she
And he ain't no
owns that.
machine.
In a
Right.
relationship.
Right.
He's on all the time.
That's right.
I'm not
Okay.
saying so. Therapists have hearts too. Like we get training that, you know,
That's what
we have to distance ourselves from a situation, but we can allow ourselves to be in that situation. He allowed himself to be in that situation, but also the situation overtook him too much. I think he should have checked himself at the door, you know, and realized, I need to have a conversation with her about this because this is about to get really, really
She
out of
should have
hand.
checked herself because he already told her up front.
No, but I
was
don't
he.
I don't disagree with you. Don't disagree
Oh,
with
he
you.
didn't know she was mad either.
Okay.
He thought she was sick.
Okay.
Right?
Okay,
Yeah,
guys,
then
we
she
gonna go to
lied and
Miss-
say she's sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
In the
gonna go to
head,
Miss
that's what she was.
We're gonna go to Miss Pat, and I'm gonna check in on our Facebook comments. Go ahead, Miss Pat.
And I believe, and I don't know if it was chapter 16 or 17, but he made it clear when his coworker came in to talk to him, to ask him to cancel him and his wife. He said, my counseling is in PSTD and this and that. I don't do relationship counseling. I don't do marriage counseling. So in order for him to do that with him and her, with him and Dawn, he said, you know, maybe I need to go to counseling myself with her. And instead, he decided to step into the arena of dealing directly with Drake.
I like that. You know what? I didn't even think of it that deeply, Miss Pat. You're absolutely right. I forgot about that part. That is what promoted him to deal with Dre. Wow. Okay, so let me look at the Facebook. Let's see here. So some of the comments, Ashley Fisher said it's all perception. Think outside of yourself. Kendra Jenkins said, yes, she agrees with Marlee Ray. And then, Kendra Jenkins also said, he's a man with feelings. It was a trigger for him in regards to Macon. Stephanie Thurman said, right, because what if the roles were turned? How would you have felt if he saw, nope, Stephanie, now I like that girl. How would the role return? I can't even read the comment all the way out. How would he have felt if he saw her out with another man? Okay, and then she said, the ice cream I would have kicked that bag of ice cream off the table if he had brought it to me. I'm sorry. That's just me. Kendra Jenkins said if he saw her, she's replying to Stephanie. If he saw her, he would have approached Don. He was mature and knew what he wanted. Okay. And then Gloria Johnson said, Kendra Jenkins, I think he totally would have too. So they're going back and forth about, you know, the perception of Macon if he would have seen Don out with another man. I don't know. We have Nene. Nene, how you doing, girl?
Hey, made it.
Glad you join us, girl. We got some steamy discussions here on chapter 11 through 17.
I've been kind of watching on Facebook while I was on my other Zoom call.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
So
I've already bought the other 2 books.
Look, you and Alex, yeah.
I mean,
me too.
Gloria Johnson and I think Kendra Jenkins, girl, they already on to the next series. They done finished the Something About Love series.
Yes.
Okay, I'm like, y'all have to wait and slow down.
yeah, they gotta wait. Yeah, 2 is my favorite.
I'm gonna start.
There, your favorite. Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2 is my
So,
favorite.
my next question, and I kind of talked about it when I was doing the overview, is Dawn and Dre's relationship, and then her reflecting. I found it very interesting how after Dre confesses to her about his feelings for her, and of course she's blown away as anybody else would be, and how she, she thinks about it, and then she reflects over the years that, they've been friends for 34 years. So she reflects over the years that, how they both have been there for each other. And I don't know, I kind of got the feeling, I wonder if you guys experienced the same. It wasn't as if she reflected on how much she was, or even if she was trying to re-examine to see if she was in love with Dre. She just reflected on the history. So do you think sometimes as women and men too, do we get in relationships that's kind of like obligation? You've been with, or even stay in relationships as far as obligation. You've been with this person, you know them, like I know your quirks, I know who you are, it's comfortable. I noticed that when she was reflecting on Dre, she was thinking more so of that versus trying to examine, am I in love with that man? Like, is there any type of in love? I love him, of course, but am I in love with him? What do you guys think about that? I saw your hand go up, Alex.
So, I mean, I think,
Wanda,
we see it,
make it quick.
we see it in her, in the flashbacks, which I will say is probably one of my favorite parts of the entire book, is that we get to see her reflecting on a couple, I think it's 3 specific memories that she has of their very, very long relationship. I mean, in those moments, we realize that she not only mothers him a little bit, she sees him as a friend, plain and simple. So it's kind of like, how Tori friend-zoned Donald. He had been in the friend zone the entire time they had known each other. But he started realizing that they're close. He started misinterpreting their closeness as, oh, she must really, really like me, in a romantic sense. And he fell in love with her. And I think, I have friends that I know who have been in that very position. They're like, oh, I really love this person. I'm like, but do they love you back? They love you as a friend. They don't love you romantically. There's different types of love. And you're misinterpreting the type of love that person is presenting to you. So I think, at the end of the day, like when she was thinking back about what the relationship with Dre was like, she did love him, but as a very dear and close friend. Like we all have that friend who we know that if something was to go, the literal was to hit the fan, that's the first person we call. Sometimes the literal hitting a fan is happening with your significant other. You need to have a friend that you are super, super close to that you can call and say, this is the situation. How can you help me? Or I just need to vent to you. You can't vent to somebody who, at least in my opinion, you can't vent to somebody who you see only as a friend. You don't see more than just a friendship with them.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree.
Sometimes with a significant other, you can have the conversations with them, but sometimes you just need to have that friend who is a step removed from the situation to have that conversation with, because you're going to get a more honest and a different perspective from the situation than, say, your significant other.
That's true. We're going to go to Wanda, Miss Pat, and then Mel.
No, I was just going to say that I think that to me, and everything that I read, I believe that she only saw them as friends, and almost him like a girlfriend, but just a male, right? And that's the way I saw that.
Exactly.
But then I began to feel through some of her emotions and some of the things that she was questioning, that she was trying to make herself be in love with him because he's always been there for her. So was that what true love really looked like? And he was comfortable. She felt secure with him. He understood her emotions. He was always there for her. So I felt like she was starting to interpret her relationship with him that way. And I was really glad when she finally said, I love you, but I love you like a friend, and that she distinguished her feelings from Macon differently than she did for Drake. So
exactly.
Yeah.
I agree too. I forget who was that. Was it you, Mel, or Miss Pat? I can't remember. Oh, okay.
So, I mean, he was like the big brother, the family member that didn't respond to her in summer. However, he was a replacement for her brother that didn't, participate with the family. But all I want to say is, who's the big baby now?
Okay, Miss Pat, I like that. Who's the big baby
Yes.
now?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Mel.
Every
right,
time
Miss
I would
Pat.
read that, I would cringe. I hated him calling him that. I hated him calling him that.
I know.
Immature. It was quite immature, wasn't
So rude. So
Yes.
it?
disrespectful.
Immature. Yeah.
Yes.
It was funny. I'm sorry.
Big baby.
Y'all know y'all guilty of every time you meet somebody and they get on your nerves. It could be a co-worker or that friend that is friends with somebody else that y'all know y'all nickname them. I am not the only one. I can totally relate to Dre calling him Big Baby.
I would have called him BB.
I just think it was
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mel, did you get a chance? I'm sorry. I know you had a thought you wanted to share.
I just think they were just familiar. Yeah.
Okay. And sometimes that is comfortable.
Yeah, it's comfortable. I'm not for sure if Dre is capable of love, but we'll see if Marlee Ray gives me this, let us get us into the psyche of Dre, because I'm not for sure if he's capable of love.
Yeah. I agree with Mel too, because it has to be in book 3 because his maturity still wasn't there by chapter 17.
Now, you know what we didn't talk about, and I should have brought it up. We didn't talk about, I couldn't bring it up because for sake of time, the whole Stacy incident. Y'all remember Stacy, right?
Exactly. At mama's house, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if he's capable of that. I don't know what he's capable of.
So he learning, Macon gave him a little lesson on how, this is what a real man does when he's in a relationship. So there's hope for Dre, I hope. I don't know. I don't know. Now, Jay, you've been down there quiet. I know you done had the trials and tribulations this week, but what is your take on thus far? I know we've been kind of talking across you a little bit, but did you have anything you want to contribute at this moment? If not, I'm gonna move on.
Not at the present moment. My brain is just all over the place. I'm just laughing at some of the scenarios, and especially when, girl, act like you my cousin.
No, Jay. Oh, that's wrong.
See, and now see, Jay is just,
That's kind of why I started smirking. That's when I was smirking when the conversation about he didn't introduce her to his cousin and all this, and I said, yeah, act like
you know about that. Let me see what
a whole nother. Hey, look, that's a whole nother book.
Right, it sure is.
That's my niece. That's my niece.
Nobody any idea. That is funny. So over on Facebook, let's see what they're talking about because they are going in. Let's see here. Where did I leave off? So Ashley Fisher says the flashback helped me to soften up on Dre. I agree that she mothered him, which may explain the immaturity level. Oh, okay. Didn't think about that.
Yeah.
And Kendra Jenkins said, yep, Dre needs to grow up, Petty Dre. She called him Petty Dre. And then Fisher nicknamed him. She said, Takesha, I nickname everybody. I do too. And then Kendra's telling my business. She said, Takesha is the queen of nicknaming them like she see it. Sorry.
So it's Marlee Ray.
And Ashley Fisher said they needed their boundaries challenged. And Deborah King said he did call Macon Big Baby. And then they say, yeah, he did. So they're just pretty much going on. And then Deborah Davis made a point. I guess I did feel sorry for Jay somewhat. And then she said, I guess she's saying somewhat it was a loss on him. Yeah, he kind of got a little bit of a lesson towards the end. He is a little bit of a big baby. That was a very appropriate nickname for him. Sorry, but
Right.
yeah,
Immature.
Yeah.
immature.
Reflecting.
Yeah. So I did want to ask you guys, what was your favorite part? There was so much going on in chapter 11 through 17. It was so hard for me to kind of narrow down the points. Like, for example, I brought up Stacy. I didn't even get a chance to review that. So what are I'm going to ask some of you guys, or you can just volunteer. What were some of your favorite parts or favorite chapters or scenes within this segment between chapters 11 and 17? And I'm gonna start with Wanda. I see her smiling, so I'm thinking she has something in mind.
Oh, actually, I'm just thinking because I thought 11 through 17 was, I mean, it was good getting to Lisa, but then once I got to 11 and kept reading, all I could think of is, God, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? And I
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I was just kind of on a little roller coaster. I guess I
Mhm.
think the fact that they were able to re-engage and to have the conversations that they had to really understand what they meant to each other, and when Dawn came to the realization of the fact that she was in love with Bacon, and that Dre would always be her friend, but he needed to understand, and she was willing to make a choice. I think that for me was kind of the taking of all of that. And so we talked, I just want to address the big baby. So again, Macon had been the mature one through everything. From day one, he'd been the mature one. So to not understand the fact that he does have feelings, and he has put his everything into this, and he's been as honest and open. He has kind of mumbled to himself when he was the bigger person. He was doing it for Dawn. When there was, when Dre started to show himself, he was doing it for Dawn. And so to not even allow him to be vulnerable for a moment, I think
a little bit. I know.
I'm going to be a team Macon through the next two books.
Oh, I'm team Macon too.
Because I think he did. So I was just glad to see that they have matured, in their relationship and came back together.
This is how big of a scoundrel I thought Dre was. When they had,
Mel is
when
not
they
a Dre
had,
fan.
I'm not a Dre fan. No, he's a scoundrel. Okay, this is why. Because when he had the accident, as I was reading, I was like, I hope he didn't have this accident on purpose.
I thought that
too, right? I think he did that on purpose. For sympathy.
I think I was annoyed with the fact that when he saw Dawn, he was like, "Yeah, I knew my baby would come see me." Like, have a seat.
Right, Matt. Right.
Go ahead, Pat.
A serious concern that he was playing both of them, and he was just so jealous that he has never seen Dawn with a man that she was so into, even that first husband. And so his deal was, I'm shutting this down.
Yep.
And whatever comes out of it, fine, because he has never been consistent with any other woman. And I don't think he would have been consistent with her. If she had got caught up with him, he was in a trick bag.
You know what? And I should have made notes on this, but Marlee Ray, if you can help me clean this up. But there was a part when they went to the kids' party and Dre showed up dressed up.
Yeah.
Y'all remember that?
Yes. Thanks for bringing that up. Yes. Who comes to a kid's party dressed up in church clothes and wink? Wink.
Really? Nobody was surprised. It was Dre.
And look, why did they, the innuendos between the conversation of the men and the end up being in Macon's favor? I thought that was hilarious. That could have been a topic all night for me. When the guys were, talking about, I forget something, and Marlee, y'all have to help me out here because I didn't make notes on that because I was trying to get everything in. But yeah, that was like the funniest chapter to me.
Yeah,
because Dre was literally sitting there with his tail between his legs, like, wait a minute, I'm the one sitting here dressed up. I'm the one supposed to be looking good in this situation.
Right.
And they telling him he need to ask Macon for advice on keeping a woman.
Yes, that's what it was. That's what it was. Thank you. That was what I was waiting on. I was like,
that was the shiznick.
Wow.
Marlee, you did that, girl.
You did that. You really did.
that was funny. It was so many
That was-
little like parts in there that was just, oh my God. I visualized that whole scene. I could totally see that whole scene played out.
Wanda, I was with you. It was so many ups and downs and emotions. And I was like, if she ends up with him, I'm going to lose it. Right?
Yep.
If she ends up with Drake, I'm going to lose it. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, it was so many twists and turns.
Yes.
Go ahead, Alex. And then we're going to check on
What
our
were you
Facebook.
saying, Marlee?
Go ahead.
No,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was like, when Melody first read the book, she kept calling me as she was reading it. So she had written me that if every chapter, I'm telling you right now, if she starts dating, I'm gonna stop reading this book. I'm gonna stop reading.
I'm be done with Marlee, right? I was gonna be done with Marlee, right? That was
just all that threatened me. So
yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, I called her. Yeah. I'm done. I was gonna be done. I was a wrap. And she ends up, I'm like, couldn't do it. No.
So Mel, you were done if she didn't end up with Macon.
I'm like, what kind of decision is she making here? Not even a thought. I couldn't be a party to that.
Right. The only one that was in your
The other thing is that Alex mentioned it earlier when he was talking about her friends, and the reason that I thought that I wanted to definitely include that is that a lot of times when we're going through things, when you're in the midst of things, especially with a relationship, you will lean on your friends for advice, things like that.
Absolutely.
But you have to be careful with that because your friends are also gonna base their advice on what they've been through. So
Exactly.
Tori and Janae, they were on opposite ends of the spectrum as far as giving her advice. So that was another thing that I thought was one of the things that I wanted to bring out in the story is that you definitely have to be concerned with when you ask for advice from your friends, and you got to know which friends to go to depending on what the problem is.
That's true.
You lean on your sane friends. You don't
Yes.
You don't confide. You don't confide in your insane friends.
No.
They're doing some insane stuff.
They'll have you all messed up. They'll have you all messed up. Huh?
Jay.
Yeah.
So let me see what they're talking about over here in the in Facebook. So we have, I think I scrolled up too far. Ashley Fisher said, Dre ain't that crazy to have an accident on a person on purpose. And then Kendra Jenkins said, I'm a family girl at heart, but I like how Macon's stepdad groomed him and he had a positive, stable example in them. His family, even the kids, loved Don. How her friends were mature with Don and Dre, even to the point of Dre was even about to knock him out, trying to mess up Macon and Dre. Even Dre's parents were supportive of Don and Macon. And that was very
They were.
Yeah.
Gloria Johnson said it's like he couldn't have her. He didn't want her with anybody. And she said, and she talked, I guess she was saying that was hilarious how he was at the party dressed up. And let's see. Kendra Jenkins said, oh gosh, she picking on me again. She said if Trey would have been at the party, Trey is me, by the way, it's my initials. She would have said, I see you cleaned up, Cuddy. With your Sunday best on. She said, Trey would have said, are you going to a deacon's meeting after this? She know my little side jokes. And then Shamil Iris said, I like it when Macon had that man-to-man conversation with Dre about being there for Don. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Stephanie Thurman said Dre showed up. Dre showed up with his Easter outfit on. Y'all stop. Y'all stop. Dre. But go ahead, Alex, and then we'll go on to the next point.
So I have two favorite parts in the book.
Oh, good.
So like
Okay.
the first favorite was when Dawn confronted Dre about his feelings, and she put him in his place, saying, "You need to understand that by you telling me this at this moment in time can only mean one thing, that you're trying to mess up what's happening." And I as someone who has seen that happen for somebody, I know how much emotion that takes for someone to say, get their words together and be like, this is how it is. If you don't like how it is, then you need to just step back and know your place. So like seeing that moment and see her make her choice after all of the thinking through that she had, it was a big moment for me, because I was on your Nini, I was with you. I was like, I swear to God,
Right.
if she chooses him, I swear to God, I'm not reading any more of this damn book.
I was like,
exactly.
I can't do this.
Yeah, I'm like, because he has proven over and over, time and time again, that he's immature. Like Miss Pat said, that he can't have a consistent relationship with any woman. Just because, I mean, we talked about this with Joy Happen. Just because he's comfortable and familiar does not mean you should be with him.
Right.
So that's the first moment. The second moment, I think,
Alex.
yeah, I think and then the second moment, just completely lost my train of thought. The second moment that was probably the most favorite of the entire book was when Macon I guess not necessarily confronted Dre, but they had that conversation, because even Dre was able to admit that it took a lot of guts and a lot of balls to step up as a man and say, you know what, I know you're my girl, my woman's best friend. You need to step up and be her friend. Put all of your pettiness and whatever aside and be there for your friend, because guess what? Her mom's birthday is coming up and her birthday is coming up. So you need to be more of a man than you are right now, because she is your friend. And she's already made her choice. I'm her, she is my woman. She may be your girl, but she's my woman. I think that was one of the best lines in the entire book, because it shows he understood the situation. He observed the situation from a step back and said, you know what, the mature step in this situation is to say, she needs her best friend back. You need to be her best friend. That's all.
Okay.
When I got to that point, I was like, this is a breakthrough. Hopefully Dre learns from this situation, because, I mean, the situation at that party was probably the funniest moment in the book, because they were all making comments and stuff, and like the comment about, you need to ask Macon for advice about how to keep a man. I almost threw my phone. I was like, damn.
Hilarious. And then the irony of Dre sitting there with his leg propped up at his mom and dad's house with the remote in his hand, man, like he need a pacifier,
Yes.
You don't have to worry about Dawn. I got this. And then he unmuted the TV. I was like, oh, big baby. It's gonna be awesome.
Who was the big baby then?
I know, right? That was exactly Miss Pat. So I'm gonna change channels a little bit, because I thought this would just in also closing this book out and going into the next book. Let's talk about Miss Tori. She brought up something very interesting when she talked about how she's meeting this new guy, Marcus, and it turns out he works at the same office that Dre and them work at. Dre and Brock, or Brock used to work at. And she talks about putting Donald in the friend zone and still continuously hanging out with him. What y'all think about that? What's your thoughts about that? I don't know why that stuck with me, but it just did. And I know it happens a lot. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna throw myself out there. I have been guilty of it. It's a selfish move. I have been guilty of it because I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. That's what I thought. But what do you guys think about that? like, just continuously dating someone, knowing that their hopes is to move forward, but you've already strategically put them in the friend zone. Wanda laughing. You go ahead, Wanda. Tell me what you think.
God, every time I laugh, I'm sorry. I guess when you're single, is it selfish or is it making a decision? I mean, Donna hadn't done anything to make her think that
Alex
she only wanted to be
Literally.
right. And so they weren't like in a committed relationship. So, the doors are open until you decide that you're going to move in one direction or the other to close it. So I don't know that she was being selfish. I think she had keep her options open. And nobody said this on the call tonight. So since we're almost at the end of the book, and
go ahead.
a lot, I'm just gonna say men do it all the time.
Jay saying something.
Hey, look, all I can say is ouch on that one.
That's my thought.
That's your thought. Yeah. Okay, I know some of y'all have already read ahead, so without giving too much going ahead, what do y'all think about that? And also, our folks that are watching on Facebook, what do you think about that? Is it really wrong or right? Or, like Wanda said, if you're single, you can, if you ask me out, then I'm just going out for a date. What do you guys think? Okay, go ahead, Alex.
So I have to say,
Alex and Miss Pat.
I feel like there's two sides to that situation. The one side is open communication. If she's already made her decision, why not just tell him and not lead him on? So that's the one side. The other side is, and I personally agree with you, Wanda, is that if you're single, you're single and ready to mingle. Like you spread your tendrils out, you date your men's, you date your women's, whatever it is. And whoever makes the step, which Donald has not made, you go with. And so I feel like there's nothing wrong with what she's doing personally. I feel like maybe she should be, if it's been on a number of dates, she should be a little bit more upfront about the situation. Be like, you know what, this is what's going on. I just see you more as a friend. I'd love to still hang out with you, whatever that may be, whatever. But I don't think she's wrong at all. I mean, she's in her, she's on her right.
Y'all don't worry about Donald. He know what he doing. Don't worry about Donald. You'll see. You'll see. Don't you worry about Donald.
Don't you give it away, Mel.
That's a millennial move, right?
No, I didn't.
Therefore, I agree with Alex, because I was going to say, if you're single, you need to mingle. But the other thing is, girlfriend decided, I can take you or leave you, whatever, so it's not too cool.
That's true. All right, Mel, and then I'm gonna check out our Facebook.
In other words is, I'll leave you hanging.
Don't y'all worry about Donald. Don't y'all worry about it. Don't y'all worry about it.
And don't you give nothing away, Mel.
Right. Don't
All
worry
right,
about
let's see what that's saying over here in Facebook. So we have Kendra Jenkins. She says women don't date enough, and Tori wants two or in the bush than one in hand. Oh, so she wants two in the bush and one in it. That's a good one. Chanel Lowry said Tori just put him on pause until she's ready to deal. We talked about that earlier. Okay. Then Kendra Jenkins said, yes, keep a rotation. Jada Pinkett even said, we don't date. And it looks like she said, recreationally enough, 2 or 3 dates, and we are a couple. Right. Piss nah. Okay. And then Deborah King says, Donald needed to claw his way out of the friend zone or move on. Okay, step up or step to the side, Donald. All Stephanie right. Thurman said, right, Mel, Donald gonna be just fine. Donald's gonna be just fine.
Don't y'all worry about Donald.
Donald's married to his motorcycle.
And then Kendra said something cute. She said 7 days in a week, keep 3 days in the rotation. Now look, she
I'm with
married.
Kendra. And with Kendra.
So yeah, so that I just found that to be interesting that Marlee Ray put that at the end, because that is something that people deal with. You do come across people that you don't mean to, you automatically put them in the friend zone. They could be the nicest person in the world, but it's just like, I'm sorry, but you're a friend.
I don't think it was automatic.
But
She
the
went
one
out with
thing-
him a few times. She went out with him. She seemed to enjoy him. It's just
Yes, she did.
this other opportunity, brought itself to light. So
Right.
it's,
And then,
But one thing
like,
we
she
know
kinda
about
bad.
Tori is that Tori's kind of, she's kind of reasonable sometimes. So, I mean, she was Dawn's,
She
stable.
was.
Uh-huh.
She was.
Mhm.
She was.
Yeah.
So I guess we would just have to see. So, we are going to continue this on to the next book in this Something About Love series. Yes, this is so good. And cheers to you, Marlee Ray. I have enjoyed this book immensely. I am so excited, and we are going to continue this on. We're going to start the next book. The next book is going to be Something Borrowed, Something New, and this is going
Wanda,
to
do
be
you have
Miss
your book?
Story.
I do. Those are the last two.
Have you started?
I haven't. I was
I'm
trying to be
surprised.
patient, but now tonight I will. That'll
Oh,
be
girl, I'm gonna tell you right.
Kindle downloaders, we get it done in 2 seconds.
Yeah, don't y'all worry about Donald. Don't worry about Donald.
Don't worry about Donna. And let me
Okay.
see over here in the Facebook group. In the Facebook, you guys, if you have any questions for Marlee Ray, you want to ask her now, be my guest, put it in the comments, or you can also email her, and I put her email within the comments, and I'll post it again. But Kendra Jenkins said, Marlee, you can be a matchmaker. That's cute.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she right with pretend people.
So Marlee said, if I can build my perfect world, I can.
I'm like, you don't see the makers walking around here looking like that.
Fine making for me.
Right, exactly. Right, exactly.
Yeah, you gotta make it.
No, I don't. This one. Making, girl, roll up on him.
Kendra Jenkins said, I've already, I know I've sold at least 8 of these books. So they're just going back and forth talking about how good.
Well, thank you.
And then
Kendra.
and Gloria said, oh, see, now Gloria telling stuff. She talking about some Donna, woo. And she said, wait until y'all read book 2 and book 3. So everybody
Gloria,
seems to be happy.
Gloria's already in book 3.
Girl, she already on the next series. Okay. She already on Slick, girl. I'm like,
She already on Slick. Well, I'm gonna tell you, these books, like I read this book, if I open her book, I finish it like in a day and a half. I'm done. Like they're just so great.
Right.
I will say
Then she
this.
calls me and chastises me after she reads.
She
I
told
wanna know-
me you.
Yeah, it's a full conversation. I got a question. Why did so-and-so do this?
But you know, Marlee, our family aren't the patient folks, okay? Patient.
Yes, I do know. Yes.
Okay. As long as you know, I just thought I'd tell you just in case.
Look, I did good because I thought she was going to end up with Dre, and I was tempted to go to the end of this book because I was like, you want to know what? I'm not going to wait till I get to this book to find out she was Dre. But I stayed with it. I was not going to wait.
Well, I have to admit, I did get nervous when she started doing that reflecting. I was like, look, Don,
Yeah.
like, stop reflecting on stuff that happened yesterday.
I was like, hell no. Swear to God.
No. It ain't hell no, it's hell no.
You know what? That was the last, the reflection part. I didn't put that into the book until the book was finished. Because
Really?
yeah, that was the last part,
That was
because
good,
once
though.
I read through the story, and I believe I talked with Stephanie about this, and we went kind of back and forth with saying like about the relationship with Dre. And one of the things that once I read it again, that wasn't there for me, I really wanted the reader to understand who Dre was to her and just how close they were. So I said, I need to go back to kind of explain it, because in my mind, I knew what it was, but I said, no, I need to go back to the beginning to just kind of explain how close they actually were, so that the readers could understand why why there would be confusion, and why he would put something on her mind, and why she could possibly, because they had been close for so long. And Dre is one of the only people who has never disappointed her, a man-wise. So he's the only person that's never disappointed her. And also, you have to remember that Dawn is the only person that he is actually vulnerable with. So one of the things that they did discuss, and Macon told her the same thing. He said, he uses you. That's why he doesn't do well in relationships.
That was very good.
Right. Because the intimacy part, that's where he gets that from Dawn. So there was no need for him to connect with any of the women that he dated.
Right.
That is so, and you know what? And I owe Shamel Lowry apology, because she had sent me that question, and as I was going through my notes, I was like, you know what? I got too much to bring up. I got to slam some stuff down. But she brought up the fact that Dre had, Don had fulfilled that companion part, and so all he needed was the intimacy. He just needed sex. That was it.
Right.
He was good to go.
Right.
So I thought that was very good that you brought that up. So let me see, what are they saying over here? Let's see. Oh, Kendra Jenkins wanted me to ask you, Marlee Ray, ever thought about audiobooks series?
Yeah, I talked about that.
Yeah. Mel's asked me about that too. But I don't know when I would do it. If I don't like the way I sound, so I could not do it. So I would have to actually have someone else to do it. And one of the things that that I would definitely want, if I did turn that way, is I would definitely want a guy's voice for the male portion of it. So, so
to go back and forth.
Because I think it's
characters.
Also, really two guys' voices, because I would like Macon and Dre to definitely be separate characters, because they are. I wouldn't want them to be read by the same person. So I don't know. Well, one thing about books is just like music, they never get old. So that could be something to do, in the future. It's not, definitely gonna be done right now, but it could definitely be something that I would do or consider in the future.
Yep. Understood.
Now, panelists, did you guys have any questions for Marlee Ray before we conclude?
I just say great job. Keep them coming.
Yeah. Thank you.
Definitely keep them coming.
And I gave you a great review.
Say that again,
Marlee.
What'd you say?
I said I gave her a great review.
Look at you! I'm gonna get it tonight. Yes, please. Let me make sure it's
Amazon review also.
Yes, definitely. Now that we finished the book,
I'm gonna read the review tonight.
Yes, definitely. Let's go on Amazon and all of them. Good book free.
Yeah.
Put a review for the book. Now that we finished, everyone in Facebook, please definitely go and make a review about the book and talk about your experience. I know some of you have read ahead, but if you could go ahead and make a review.
Gloria.
Review, a great review. Exactly. Regarding the book and its content. Yes, Alex.
So I have a question for you, Marlee.
Okay.
What was your inspiration for this book series? Specifically, this book series, because I know you have this series and then you have the other one. But for this book, what was your inspiration? Like, did any of the characters come from people you knew? Was it situations that you had observed or you experienced yourself?
Yes.
That's a question that I love asking authors when they write books.
I would say the whole series, I guess it's kind of a two-part answer. So the actual first book for me, the one that you just read, that book was more kind of therapeutic for me because I lost my mom, and it was one of the things that I did, like in the evening. I did not sleep well after my mom passed, so I just kind of watched TV, and then I just kind of started reading books. And one of the things that I did is I just kind of fell into like a bunch of independent author books on Amazon. So I was reading, throughout the night. And then I kind of got the story that popped up in my head. And I actually met some of the other authors, and they gave me so much great advice and help. And I said, okay, well, I'm gonna try to write a story. And when I sat down, it kind of became more therapy for me, just kind of grieving my mom, definitely with the first book. Once I finished it, it was kind of like, okay, I got more to tell. So I just kind of kept it going. But I guess as the series as a whole, one of the things I wanted to focus on is that a lot of the books that I've read, they kind of focused on what love looks like when you're in your 20s. Like, oh, you meet this guy, you get married, you have a baby. But I did not find a lot of books that focus on, well, what happens when you 40 or you divorce or you don't have kids, or you have kids and you divorce? What does love look like after everybody has kind of, got the quote unquote baggage? What happens then? So that's why I kind of wanted to focus on, that's kind of the focus of the series. So book 2 and book 3, book 3, I'll kind of skip over book 2, but book 3 it's something blue, something new. And that's kind of like that midlife crisis that kind of everybody goes through when you're middle-aged. Like, okay, am I where I'm supposed to be? Am I not for myself? Kind of that type of thing. And there's the comparing when you're dating, and that the competition in dating, and just all of that. And then book 2 kind of focuses on just the different things that you go through, especially when you're dealing with, at that point when you're in your 40s, you have to own who you are. You can no longer say like, well, I didn't have a daddy when I was growing up, or so happened when I was little. You got to own who you are. It's all on you now. You got to let it go. So that's kind of, and it also focuses on different things in relationship with infidelity and just different things like that. So I just wanted to talk about and write about what love looks like when you're middle aged, because it's a whole lot different than when you're in,
Yes, it is.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, everybody has potential.
Okay, I just love how these married folks is amen, and
we know.
But it's definitely true. So that's where it came from, Alex. Just kind of what love looks like when you're middle aged. Yep.
So I have a follow-up question. So I lost my father a little under a year ago. And actually the first book that I am releasing was very therapeutic for me to put together. So would you say that the writing of that first book specifically helped you process the death of your mother? Or do you think that you learned something through that process that helped you then process the loss of your mother?
Well, I think it kind of helped me get through that particular time, I would say. So I don't think there's, and this is just me, there's no getting over it.
Correct. Yeah.
And how to deal with it. So I think it helped me deal and get past that particular stage in the grief. But as far as getting through it, it just looks different as you go on. So I'm now 4 years out from losing my mom, and it's still painful, but it's different from what it's different from what it was after year 1. So just process it differently. So like I said, that the writing was therapy for that time. Now I use other sorts of therapy. I do things different. So the writing has become a hobby as opposed to therapeutic for, my mom's death.
So I want to say, like, since, I lost my father a little under a year ago, reading your book, I could feel that process happening. And as someone who has a psych degree, it's weird for me because I see it from as a psychologist point of view, but I also see it as a personal side of view. I see both sides kind of convening, and I want to say that through the process of reading this book, yes, there were parts of the book that were very difficult for me to read, specifically, when she would step into her mother's house and she was hit by that emotion. There are parts that I couldn't really read through because it was very difficult for me because, it's been less than a year that my father passed away. But I want to say that, I want to say thank you because this book really did help me kind of, in an odd way, process that loss, because reading this book made me realize, I was like, you know what? As a creative person, I have poetry that I have written that I know that helped me process the situation that I was in a few years ago. That emotion made me realize that these things that I've written myself could help other people. So I want to just say, as a writer, but just as a person who has experienced loss of a loved one, specifically of a parent, I just want to say thank you. It's meant a lot to me to read this book.
Oh, thank you, Alex. I really appreciate that. I have to give you an air hug. That's so sweet. That's so sweet. And I'm glad it helped you because I definitely I don't wish that pain on anybody. So I understand, 100% what you're going through. I definitely get it. So I'm glad if it was just a little bit of help, I'm glad I was able to help. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Well, we are going to definitely go on to the next book. Our next meeting, will be June 14th. Same day, same time. We're going to be reading chapters 1 through 8. Okay. And if you guys are watching us in Facebook, we have I put the link up to where you can purchase the next book, Something Borrowed and Something New, which is going to be Tori's story. And also 2 updates before we close out. We have a YouTube channel. Yay. So if you go on YouTube, yay, we getting official. Look, that's our little dance. It's Pat doing our little dance. You want to go back and look at all of the parts of Joy Happened. I have all of those up there. Stephanie's beautiful face is on the first one, so you can't miss it. Yay. And also our last meeting, part 1 of Something Old and Something New is up there. So if anyone asks you or they want to go back or they're having trouble filtering it through the Facebook page, they can go on YouTube. And it's real simple. It's Wind Down Readers. And it's on YouTube. Look at our cheerleader, Miss Pat, over there dancing for us.
Yay. Love.
Wait a minute, right. I'm gonna have to have a sidebar with Miss Kendra Jenkins. Miss Kendra Jenkins got a whole bunch of questions that I missed.
Look, I'm up here. That's why I can't even listen to y'all because I'm looking back over
my phone number. So.
Our next meeting, she gonna bring her tail and she gonna be a panelist. That's what that is, because she gets too vocal on this comment. I can't even keep up. Keep up with her right here.
I do want to answer that question for her. I see she asked about the research with the characters, or the storyline, and was I from the DMV or Seattle? So no, I am right. Well, I am from St. Louis, but I did live in the DMV for a very long time. Probably from 25 to 40, I lived in the DMV. So most of my, the heavy dating part was definitely
in your life.
But Seattle, no, and that's why I don't talk about it that much. So.
Okay.
She said that. Oh, so listen to me. I'm trying to correct Kendra, and she was right. So you did live in Seattle?
No, I didn't.
No. Oh, okay. So she been saying
in another book. That's what Kendra.
Oh. Where's Kendra?
No.
Kendra in another book. That's what Kendra asking about.
Another book.
That's why y'all need to learn the rules and regulations.
Oh, she's in book 2.
Yeah.
Kendra, that's my favorite one.
Book 2. Okay. Bingo.
So I see we have our panelist D. Hi D. I'm glad you was able to join in, was able to get you in, guys. This is D. She's coming in from North Carolina.
Hello, everybody. Hi.
So
I'm just enjoying listening to you all over here.
thanks. We're glad you were able to come on. So I'm glad. I'm just excited. I'm excited about reading. I feel like I'm left behind. Everybody done started book 2 and left me out. I'm trying to follow.
You started book 2 already too?
No, I've been following. I have to follow with the group, unlike y'all.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I won't be left behind. But Marlee, did you have any final thoughts before we close out? I did have one more update. I forgot, but my mind is going. I'm drinking. Did you have any other comments or that you wanted to? And look, I'm anxious to read.
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. I really, I appreciate the support, and I'm loving the conversation, just all the different points of views and everything. So I just appreciate it, and I like doing these, so I'm excited. Oh, and I'm in the book club.
Thanks to Stephanie has been the coach. Y'all, she produced the shows and everything so that we can talk. So y'all, please clap for Steph. She is very essential with this. This wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for her encouragement and pushing along. Because let me tell you, once technology started messing with me, I'd be like, I don't want to do it. And Stephanie was like, no,
always great.
You gonna do it. We're gonna push through. You'll be all right. So we were look, we were on each other during this whole process.
Stephanie's a goat. Stephanie's a goat. Yeah, she really
is definitely an encourager and a goat. So y'all, Stephanie, yes, definitely. Look at Miss Pat.
Most fun I've had in 50 years.
So yes, so definitely. So yes, Marlee, you have girl.
Can I ask one question? Marlee, can you give them an insight or just the a caption, not a caption, something about book 2. Can you tell us something about book 2?
Yeah, you can lead us into book 2 now. Go ahead on, do that.
Okay, so book 2 is gonna focus on Tori. She's gonna be the lead, and just similar to the last book, one of the things that I enjoy doing with this book as well as the second book is that I didn't want you to know who the love interest would be, well, who the person would end up with until the end of the book. So because I want to take all, have it kind of suspenseful, like, okay, so sometimes if you see it from two people's point of view, you'll kind of know what's going to happen. Like, okay, well, no matter what happens, these people are going to end up together. But I'd like to introduce a third person. And just with these particular books, it was fun introducing a third person so that you wouldn't necessarily know who she would end up with. So Tori is going to, in the second book, Tori's going to go on a bit of a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
So she's going to deal with quite a bit. You're going to see, kind of, you'll meet Tori's family. You'll meet kind of just same way you met Dawn's family. She's also, you're going to see the Marcus guy that she has introduced. Yeah. So of course she said that she's seeing him and that's who she really likes. But, you're going to have a dark horse come through, which would be Donald.
Okay.
So, there's going to be kind of like,
yeah.
And right now, of course, Donald is definitely in the friend zone. But
he's in the friend zone. Yeah.
I know. I feel bad that he's in the friend zone.
He's in the friend zone. But as they say, Donald, you'll get to know Donald's character more because right now you really don't know a lot about Donald.
Yeah.
He may be a little shy and all that. So you'll get to meet Donald. You'll see his personality. You'll definitely get to know a lot more about Tori and who she is, and you'll meet her family and everything. So I don't want to give too much away because if I tell you too much, then
don't do that.
But I'm gonna say the second book, there was a lot of conversation like among my friends and people who read the book. There was, you either hated the people or you liked them. And I guess it was Tori. So a lot of people hated Tori. A lot of people loved Tori. So I'm just curious.
I like Tori. I like Tori.
Yeah, that was Mel's favorite book. So I'm just curious to see what your opinion is going to be on how Tori's story goes, because she's
the ups and downs of this relationship. I mean, this girl right here.
Oh, really? Okay, I can't.
So
yeah,
it's going to be a much different book than Dawn's book. It's much different.
It's much different.
Yeah, it's a lot different. So
download will be in the next 5 minutes.
What'd you say, Miss Pat?
My download will be in the next 5 minutes.
Miss Pat, like, yeah, y'all go ahead on. I'm getting ready to start.
Yeah, y'all gonna love that one.
Okay, well,
the one thing I want to say about book 2 is that I liked how I watched the characters grow and mature throughout that book. I thought there was a lot of, to me anyway, I thought there was a lot of lessons learned.
Okay,
Well,
Mel, I'm gonna have to save some of this for book 2.
Exactly.
Okay, all righty. Okay, I'm sorry.
From the producer.
Talk about.
Okay, the producer said, "Shut your pie hole."
Right.
Yeah.
It's all love, all love. Well, guys, thank you again. I want to thank the panelists. I want to thank Marlee Ray for taking time out to do this. Is the joy of my 2 weeks. Okay, it's like getting checked. I can't wait to.
I know.
It's my bi-weekly reading check. So definitely. So chapters 1 through 8. We're going to be doing Something Borrowed, Something New. This is Tori's story. I put in the Facebook comments how you can get the access to the book, whether you want the digital format or you want the hand copy of the book. Marlee Ray, applause to you. This was great.
Thank you.
I'm so excited. And guys, thank you. Stay safe. One of the things about this, I'm glad we're able to come together and talk about something joyous. We've had this whole last 3 months, and of course with this last week, things have just been up and down and crazy and all around. And it's good how we can come together and just talk and be civil. And, things aren't always going to be just, I get it, but some stuff that happens just kind of blow you away. And it kind of takes the life out of you sometimes. I know the stuff that just happened this week, I was just like really, my thoughts were all over the place. So, in essence, just stay positive. I know none of us have ever experienced any of this is going on. So that's one of the reasons why I want to keep bringing these book reviews, just to kind of give us something to kind of like, relax. And, if we jump off into a fantasy world for a few minutes just to talk, let's do it. So,
so when do we talk again? When do we speak again?
When do you talk?
So,
June 7th, 7 o'clock. June 14th. Listen to me.
Okay.
7 o'clock. We're going to be reviewing chapters 1 through 8 of the second book of the Something About Love series. And it's Something Borrowed and Something New, Tori's story. So other than that, I'll see you guys then.
All right. Yes. Thank you guys.
Yes, you could have everybody raise their glass.
Oh, okay, sure.
And
raising my glass
for Marlee Ray.
Marlee Ray.
Come on, Jay, raise up something.
Raise your hand.
And we enjoyed this convencing, and we will see you in June.
All
righty, everybody.
Good
Love
night.
you.
She's the best. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye. Stay safe.